Hello, today I'll be doing a deck tech for mono green aggro. This is something that kind of shocks people when they see it do really well, but it doesn't lose to things that people think that it should lose to, and it pulls out really crazily. You should have 8 of the fetch lands that'll fit, so you've got 4 Windswept Heaths and 4 Wooded Foothills. I've only got 3, but Wooded Foothills, but yeah, 4 of each, and that's just to deck them, and they interact ridiculously with your playset of Courser of Kruphix. You want a playset of Nykthos, because if you have a Nykthos and you've got a board state and you draw another Nykthos, you can always do your Nykthos into Nykthos interactions and get crazy tons of mana. You've definitely got stuff you could pump, with mana or stuff to dump in, like X costs. Then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 forests. So all in all, that's 7 plus 12 plus 4, 19, 23. Yeah, 23 land in the deck. You don't really need 24. It ramps really hard. You've got a playset of Elvish Mystics, you've got a playset of Sylvan Caryatids, and you've got a 2 of Voyaging Satyr, specifically for the Nykthos, but they do just as well in a pinch. And then you've got a 2 of Nylea, God of the Hunt, because if you play a Reverent Hunter and he comes down with 17 counters on him, you're going to want him to have Trample, that's a threat that has to be dealt with, or else. You've got 3 Muskcutter Hydras in the main board. Now that sounds weird to some people, but when you're playing against Control, you want to win the first game. If you don't win first game, Control's going to get really good sideboard, because if Control beats you, they beat you late game. They've seen most of your tricks, they've seen most of your cards, and they know exactly how they need to sideboard to beat your deck. So, if you don't win game 1, you're going to have a hard time beating Control in post-sideboard. Now, if you do win game 1, you've got 2 more games to beat them, If you can beat them in 1 of 2 more games, then you win the match. And that's the essential thing. So if you win game 1, you have 2 whole chances to either get lucky or just outwit them or something to beat them. And so that's why you want to win turn 1, or game 1. So 3 Mistcutters hoses Control, man. It can't be countered in proc blue, so that swings right past an Ojutai, and they're really upset. Trust me, you see the look on their faces. It's hilarious. 2 Shamanic Revelation. I got the buy a box promos because my friends are nice to me. But yeah, these cards are excellent because, just being able to draw. I love being able to go, all right, draw 7, gain 20, and they go, I'm just gonna pack up. Like, it's just this thing where it's like they don't expect it, and it can just be part of a huge thing. You can go like Nykthos for 20, and then like play 4 creatures, and then Shamanic Revelation, and they're like, oh man, that just got scary. So that's what I love about it. Genesis Hydra puts in serious work, because if you look at this, the mana curves aren't even that high. If you cast him for 6 mana, you can cast anything in the main board. And 6 mana in a ramp deck is easy. So if you cast him for 6 mana, you get to look at the top 6 and you can hit anything. Anything here. Everything in this deck is a permanent except for Shamanic Revelation. So you're gonna hit something. And with Courser of Kruphix, Genesis Hydra becomes even better, because if you see an Elvish Mystic on top, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to cast a Genesis Hydra for like 2 or 3. I'll cast it for 2. I have the option that right under that Elvish Mystic, I'll have a Sylvan Caryatid or a Voyaging Satyr or an Avatar the Resolute, but even if I don't, I still get my Elvish Mystic, and Courser lets you do that, so that's great. And if you'll notice the devotion of these things, I try and have a couple 2Gs if I can. 2 greens over there, the Avatar, 2 greens on the Surrock, 2 greens on the Poly K, 2 greens on the Genesis Hydra, and Courser. And so that tries to keep as much devotion on the board as possible. Speaking of Surrock, he is wonderful. I actually got to live the dream. Turn 1 Mystic, turn 2 Courser, Kruphix, turn 3 Surrock, and I'm going to swing him. I swung in 7 on turn 3. It was great. This is an aggro deck in the weirdest sense of the word, where it's not like, I'm going to put a bunch of tiny creatures and you can't block them. It's, I'm going to get, like, 4 huge dudes that are too fast for you to be able to deal with, or too fast for you to want to deal with, Sometimes they're like, I might not block it because, it's early in the game, and I have a kill spell in hand. I'll take care of a 7, and then you kill that, and then I play something else. It's so they'll take damage that it's not little chunks of damage that you can choose. That's why I like playing against like Bossly. You can choose to take little bits of damage at a time. What little bits to take. If you don't block something from this deck, you're choosing not to take a whole lot. Your life total changes like by 7 if you choose not to block. Whereas against boss light, you can block some things and then you'll lose like 3 life and then you can stabilize. So this is why this is the better version of aggro, I think. Pelekrinos, speaking of boss light, he is excellent. I love his monstrous ability. I mean, just being able to just board wipe with a creature, and it's an expensive board wipe, but then he pays for it by making himself that much bigger, and then he can still swing in that turn. If it's because you want that 4 mana. You want that 4 mana in his casting cost to be able to monstrous him. So I like that a lot. And this is a relatively new addition. Avatar the Resolute. I had 4 spaces in the deck, and I didn't know what to put. And this card really, really came through. It's got 2 green. It's always a 3/2 reach trample, no matter what. So that is just wonderful. But also, there's a couple creatures with +1/+1 counters on them. I have Mistcutter Hydras, I've got Reverent Hunters, and Genesis Hydras, and Pelekrinos once I monstrous them. So, it's not unlikely that I'll have things down to make him better. I can play a 2-drop 4/3 reach trample, and it's got 2 devotion. Easily. It's not, that's not something that's difficult to find. One of the things I don't like is that Genesis Hydra doesn't work with him very well because he enters first, and then Genesis Hydra gets his counters if you read Genesis Hydra the way that the triggers stack. So, I mean, oh well, it's just a minor thing that I don't like. And also, I've always been wondering what to do in the case of Reverent Hunter versus Avatar. Which one do I play first? And I guess you play Avatar first unless you see a reach guy, because you're missing 2 counters on this guy versus 1 counter on this guy. But I don't know. I mean, if you see a dragon coming down, if you want to kill an Ojutai, then you play Reverent Hunter first, he gets his counter, and then you play Avatar the Resolute. But if you don't, then that's fine. I'd like to go over the sideboard a little bit, if that's alright. I have to remember to shuffle. I'm going to F&M tonight. Our store's doing an excellent thing where if you win, you get a box of Modern Masters, because they're trying to do this customer appreciation thing, which I think is excellent. I'd like more of that. They're doing that all month. The merry month of May. So, sideboard, you see a playset of Arbor Colossus. Again, I don't like dragons. Stormbreath Dragon is not my best friend. So, a 5-drop 6/6 with reach really takes care of that, because you can play it the turn after they play. You might take 4, or if you're on the play, you'll play it the turn before them, and then you won't take that 4. That's great. Against control, I like to throw in a couple Boon Satyrs, just because Boon Satyr, it's got flash. So, I took him out for Avatar the Resolute, but sometimes I'll swap those around. I also take out things like Pelekrinos against control for this, or especially for, well, not for that against control unless it's Ojutai. But against control, I like to take out some things and put in Boon Satyrs because of the flash, because they can go dig through time, and they tap out, and then I can go, alright, well, Boon Satyrs. So I get some devotion. Next turn, maybe I'll swing 4 if they don't kill it. I think it's just, it's helpful to be able to choose when to play things against control, because you don't get that option a lot. These guys have seen less and less play recently, but Abzan, just whatever, I put him in. I absolutely despise Siege Rhino, and the ability to just be like, you don't want to attack this, is great. I don't like Siege Rhinos, and against Rug monsters, which used to be big. So these things have gotten less play recently, but I feel like they're still relevant, and I love to keep them in for that. So there's 3 of in the sideboard for that. Against a couple decks, like the Voltron decks and stuff, I like to board in Reclamation Sages. I've got the pretty game day promos, but and that probably biases me a little bit, but I like to board in 2 Reclamation Sages, depending on how many things I see. I really, really hate Perilous Vault. I think that's the name of it, the board wipe. I just really, it's a board wipe on an artifact, so I can take care of it. Or this also kills mirror matches, because they don't have a Corsair Crew fix anymore, so that's helpful. And then finally, against Boss Sly, I board in 2 Hornet's Nests, because I love seeing Goblin Rabblemaster, because the thing is, I love to see him run into this, because the thing is, aggro decks, like Boss Sly have to keep attacking. Even like almost like not when it's a bad play, but when it's almost a bad play, you still have to because that you'll lose if you don't. You know, if they have the time to stabilize or anything. So when you play this, it's like okay, listen, it would be the worst play ever to attack into that, even if it means getting across like 3 or 4 points of damage. Like it would still be terrible because then I'll never attack again, and you know I'll lose. And so this is great. I also love putting this in against things like Siege Rhino, although in control decks like that, they have things like Bile Blight, so that's not as great. And I don't think I ever put down more than one of these at a time because of Bile Blight, if they have got black in their deck, because I don't like that. I don't like having both my Hornet's Nest gone and then them just being able to attack. So this has been a mono green deck tech.